Before the Atlantic became a corridor of captivity, it was a distant blue frontier. Along Africa's western shores, fishermen pushed wooden vessels through the surf. Beyond the beaches stood cultivated fields, sacred forests, and towns where traders weighed gold against cloth, copper, and salt. Farther inland, drums carried messages, blacksmiths worked beside glowing furnaces, and rulers received ambassadors. Across the Sahara, caravans moved like dark threads through an ocean of light. Camels carried salt southward and returned with gold, leather, ivory, cola nuts, and stories from kingdoms beyond the dunes. Every journey depended on knowledge of wells, wines, and seasons. A caravan missing water could disappear. On the opposite coast, sailors waited for the monsoon. Seasonal winds connected East Africa with Arabia, Persia, India, and the wider Indian Ocean. In coral-built towns, merchants spoke Swahili, prayed in mosques, and negotiated over ivory, iron, gold, cloth, and ceramics. To the north, pyramids rose from Sudanese earth. Ethiopian kings minted coins and carved proclamations. Cities expanded along the Niger, while granite walls enclosed sacred and political spaces in southern Africa. This was Africa before the Atlantic slave trade. Not one civilization, but a vast landscape of farmers, rulers, sailors, scholars, and artisans. Its world was never truly lost. It was overshadowed by what came afterward. Thousands of years ago, much of the Sahara was greener than today. Lakes filled ancient basins. Grasslands supported cattle, antelope, and human communities. On rock walls, artists painted herders, hunters, dancers, and swimmers, leaving images of a world now buried beneath sand. Climate shifted, rainfall weakened, lakes withdrew, pastures became dust. Communities moved toward rivers, highlands, and savannas where water endured. Climate did not determine history, but it changed human choices. Around reliable water, populations grew denser, agriculture intensified, and disputes over land encouraged new leadership. Societies answered these pressures differently. Some concentrated authority in kings. Others governed through councils, age associations, religious institutions, or related communities. Different landscapes demanded different answers to who controlled land, settled disputes, and spoke for the living before the ancestors. Along the Nile, water and power flowed together. South of Egypt lay Nubia, rich in farmland, cattle, ivory, and gold. Egyptian rulers repeatedly marched into this territory, seeking resources and control over river trade. Yet Nubia was never merely Egypt's southern frontier. At Kerma, rulers constructed monumental mud brick buildings amid temples, workshops, and residences. Archaeology reveals specialized crafts, distant trade, and powerful elites centuries before Kush. Later, Kushite rulers established themselves at Napata. During the 8th century before the Common Era, King Piye advanced into a divided Egypt. His conquest created the 25th dynasty, during which rulers from Kush governed much of the Nile Valley. They adopted Egyptian royal traditions, but not as passive imitators. They restored temples, honored the god Amun, and presented themselves as defenders of sacred order while grounding their authority in Nubia. Assyrian invasions drove them from Egypt, but Kush survived. Its center shifted toward Meroe, near routes connecting the Nile, Red Sea, and interior. Craftspeople produced pottery, textiles, and metalwork. Rulers rested beneath steep pyramids, while temples honored Egyptian gods beside the lion-headed Apedemak. Royal women could hold formidable authority. The Kushites also developed Meroitic writing. Scholars can pronounce its signs, yet the language remains partly understood, like voices heard through a wall. Farther east, the Ethiopian highlands looked toward the Red Sea. Fertile plateaus supported agriculture, while the port of Adulis connected the interior with Arabia, the Mediterranean, and the Indian Ocean. From this position, the Kingdom of Axum rose into one of late antiquity's great powers. In Aksum, enormous stone stelae towered above royal graves, some carved like many storeyed buildings. Quarrying, transporting, and raising them required immense planning and labor. They announced royal power on an extraordinary scale. Aksumite rulers minted gold, silver, and bronze coins whose royal portraits traveled through distant markets. During the 4th century, King Ezana adopted Christianity. Crosses replaced earlier symbols on coins. Conversion strengthened relationships with Christian communities across the Red Sea and Mediterranean while offering unity to a diverse kingdom. Aksum weakened as trade patterns and regional powers changed, yet its Christian legacy endured in later Ethiopian states. It had stood not at the ancient world's edge, but at a crossroads. Not every transformation began in a palace. In villages across sub-Saharan Africa, furnaces burned through the night. Bellows forced air into chambers packed with charcoal and ore. Smiths hammered glowing iron into hoes, blades, and tools. The origins of African ironworking remain debated. Some scholars argue for independent invention. Others emphasize the movement of technology between regions. What is clear is that African ironworkers developed numerous local traditions. Iron tools helped farmers cultivate new soils, while weapons altered hunting and warfare. Blacksmiths often carried an aura of secret knowledge, transforming earth into objects that sustained or ended life. During the same era, Bantu-speaking communities gradually expanded from West Central Africa into Central, Eastern, and Southern regions. This was no single conquering army, but centuries of movement by farmers, herders, and craftspeople. New arrivals met hunter-gatherers, pastoralists, and established communities. They traded, intermarried, competed, and exchanged knowledge. Languages changed, crops entered unfamiliar climates, and new societies emerged. In the inland Niger Delta, the river spread into marshes and seasonal lakes. Fishers entered the water as it rose. Farmers planted when it retreated. Herders moved cattle toward fresh pasture. Because no community controlled every resource, survival encouraged exchange. From this landscape grew Jinjeno, one of West Africa's earliest known urban settlements. Excavations challenged claims that cities south of the Sahara required North African influence. Jinjeno became urban before the height of Islamic trans-Saharan trade, formed by interconnected farmers, metalworkers, potters, fishers, and merchants rather than necessarily dominated by a palace. Farther east, Nok artists created terracotta figures with elaborate hairstyles and pierced eyes. At Igbo Ukwu, metalworkers produced intricate bronze objects by the 9th century. Glass beads reveal connections extending far beyond the local landscape. These discoveries forced historians to abandon old assumptions. Sophisticated cities, art, and long-distance exchange had emerged through African systems, not as gifts delivered by outsiders. Beyond the Niger floodplain, the Sahel met the Sahara. Here, kingdoms rose between different ecological worlds. The desert possessed salt, lands farther south possessed gold. Between them, merchants, guides, and rulers controlled caravan routes, understanding that wealth belonged partly to those controlling movement. The Empire of Ghana grew powerful through this geography. Its rulers taxed trade and controlled strategic routes. Muslim merchants lived within its commercial world, while royal authority remained rooted in local spiritual traditions. Ghana weakened as routes shifted and rivals grew. In the 13th century, Mali rose in its place. Its founding survives in written accounts and the oral epic of Sundiata Keita. Griots shaped this tradition across generations, preserving political memory through rhythm, genealogy, and moral meaning. Under Mali's rulers, authority stretched across farms, towns, and gold-producing territories. Mansa Musa's pilgrimage to Mecca revealed the empire's wealth to the Islamic world, but gold alone could not sustain Mali. Farmers fed its cities. Pastoralists supplied animals. Craftspeople produced cloth, leather, and metal goods. Soldiers protected routes. Merchants connected desert, savanna, and forest. In Timbuktu and Gao, Islamic scholarship flourished beside oral knowledge. Manuscripts covered theology, law, mathematics, medicine, and astronomy, while griots preserved genealogies in royal courts. Written and spoken knowledge together formed West Africa's intellectual architecture. South of the Sahel, forest kingdoms created different forms of power. At Ile Ife, Remembered in Yoruba tradition as a sacred place of creation, artists produced terracotta and metal sculptures of extraordinary refinement. Their faces appear composed, marked by fine lines and crowned with elaborate headgear. When Europeans encountered these works, racial prejudice shaped their interpretation. Many refused to believe Africans had made them. Archaeology required no vanished foreign civilization. The achievement belonged to FT. In the Kingdom of Benin, the Oba ruled from a capital of royal compounds, shrines, roads, workshops, and immense earthworks. Specialist guilds served the court, including ivory carvers and brass casters. Commemorative heads and plaques preserved dynastic history. They depicted rulers, warriors, officials, ceremonies, and Portuguese visitors. These objects stood on ancestral altars and transformed political memory into material form. When Portuguese merchants arrived in the late 15th century, they entered a kingdom capable of controlling trade and diplomatic access. Europeans had reached the coast. They had not yet mastered it. Along East Africa, the sea breathed with the monsoon. In Kilwa, African merchants occupied coral stone houses. Mosques stood near markets, where ceramics from Persia, Arabia, India, and China appeared beside local goods. Swahili was a Bantu language enriched through centuries of contact. The civilization grew from African coastal communities connected to the interior. Ivory, timber, and gold moved toward the sea. Cloth, glass, and ceramics traveled inland. Some gold came from southern Africa. At Mapungubwe, elites lived on a hill separated from the people below. Gold ornaments and imported beads signaled growing divisions of rank. Later, Great Zimbabwe became the center of a larger political and commercial world. Its builders raised sweeping granite walls without mortar. The great enclosure and surrounding settlements organized authority and ritual. Cattle, farming, and trade sustained its rulers. Colonial writers later denied that Africans had built the site. The lie served conquest. A people portrayed as incapable of civilization could more easily be dispossessed. Archaeology dismantled that fiction. Ancestors of Shona-speaking communities built Great Zimbabwe between roughly the 11th and 15th centuries. Changing trade, political movement, and pressure on resources contributed to its gradual decline, but its traditions continued within successor states. The Atlantic changed. Forms of servitude and slavery existed in African societies before sustained Atlantic contact as elsewhere. Captives could be taken in war, punished for crimes, or absorbed into households and states. But slavery was not identical across time or place. The Atlantic system brought a new scale, direction, and increasingly racialized form of hereditary bondage. Portuguese sailors moved down Africa's western coast during the 15th century, seeking gold, trade routes, and allies. They also began purchasing and capturing human beings. At first, captives were carried toward Europe and Atlantic islands. Plantation systems on islands such as Sao Tome foreshadowed what later expanded in the Americas. As European colonies demanded labor, the trade widened. African rulers, merchants, and soldiers participated, some seeking advantage, others acting under pressure, resisting, or becoming victims. Yet plantation economies, imperial competition, and Atlantic markets drove the system. Conflict became commercially valuable. Weapons altered rivalries. Raiding spread. Communities moved to avoid capture. Political struggles, once confined to local regions, became connected to an external demand capable of consuming generation after generation. The Atlantic did not immediately destroy Africa's older civilizations. Kingdoms continued to rise. Scholars continued to write. Craftspeople continued to create. But the ocean had changed. It was no longer merely a horizon. It had become a wound. Ancient Africa knew violence, inequality, ambition, and war. Wealth elevated some while burdening others. Its importance does not depend upon imagining perfection. It depends upon recognizing humanity. Before the Atlantic slave trade, Africans built cities beside rivers and stone enclosures upon hills. They crossed deserts, followed monsoon winds, forged iron, minted coins, and wrote in scripts scholars still struggle to understand. They preserved knowledge in manuscripts and living voices, governed through kings, councils, lineages, and sacred institutions, and exchanged ideas with the Mediterranean, Arabia, India, and the Islamic world. When enslaved Africans were carried across the Atlantic, they did not leave history behind. They carried fragments of these worlds, agricultural knowledge, spiritual philosophies, rhythms, languages, craftsmanship, political memory, and ways of understanding community. The tragedy was not that people were removed from a continent without history. They were torn from societies already ancient, complex, and alive. That older world survives in the pyramids of Kush, the stelae of Aksum, the manuscripts of Timbuktu, the sculptures of Iftay, the bronzes of Igbo Ukwu, the coral ruins of Kilwa, and the walls of Great Zimbabwe. It survives in their descendants. Africa before the Atlantic slave trade was never silent. History simply learned, for too long, not to listen. Subscribe to Ancient Africa Explained for more videos like this, turn on notification bell, and let me know the area you would like me to cover on my next video.